Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you for being here. What if I told you that when it came to excellence, your entire life you've been lied to? Maybe not lied to, maybe misled. Misled about excellence, because people will say you need to strive for excellence, or you need to pursue excellence, or you should be on a journey to excellence. I believe that we can live in a place where excellence becomes our average. We can live in excellence instead of trying to get to excellence. I had this realization about 10 years ago when I got tapped on the shoulder and selected to be a battalion commander in the military. This battalion command, shortly after I got this, was tapped on the shoulder to be deployed to southern Afghanistan. And when we got to southern Afghanistan, we were going to be in charge of over 1,100 souls. 1,100 soldiers that weren't just soldiers, they were mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and husbands and wives. And we owed it to their loved ones not to try to get to excellence, but to live in excellence. We needed to be at a place where excellence was our average. So on a good day, we would be spectacular. And on a bad day, we would still be great. It was that important. But then it occurred to me, it wasn't just that important because I was deploying to a combat zone with soldiers. It should be that important in everything that I do. I want to be at excellence as my average as a husband and a father, as an employee or an employer, as a volunteer in my community. I want to live every single day where excellence is my average. Because if I'm going to spend my time, the most valuable resource I have, on something, I should be doing it at a level where I'm excellent all the time. Or maybe on a bad day, I'm still great. So how do we do that? How do we live in a place where excellence becomes our average? Well, it starts with our attitude. Our attitude determines so much about who we are and how we are. And when we get better at who we are, we become better in all we do. So if I can get to a place where I can go positive instead of negative with my attitude, then I can be on my journey in excellence instead of my journey to excellence. I need to start seeing opportunities where other people see issues or obstacles. I want to be the person that is breaking the mold. I want to go positive by default instead of what this world is trying to teach us, and that is to go negative by default. We live in a pretty negative world. There was a study a few years ago that told us 90% of the things we see in the world, the conversations that we're exposed to are in, 90% of those are negative or have negative connotations. And the more frightening thing is that when we self-talk, when we talk to ourselves, and it's okay, we all do it, but when we talk to ourselves, 75% of the time, we talk negative. Now, that's a pretty scary statistic. But I want to change that. I want to change who I am and how I am. So my attitude has to be positive. The only way I can do that is to put behaviors and habits in place that allow me to default to positivity instead of what I'm currently doing, defaulting to negativity. So how do I do that? Well, there's a lot of different things I can put in place to start to make that happen. But one of the most powerful that I found, and one of the simplest to engage in, that we can all actually engage in today, is showing appreciation. Now, I got to tell you, I joined the military when I was 17 years old. It was 1986. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Mike, how is that possible? You don't look old enough for that. And I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was the mid-'80s, and I was a child of the '80s, and everything that implies. I had long hair in the back, short on the sides, parted in the middle. Now, it was not a mullet. The difference between a mullet and my hair is my hair actually looked good. The mid-'80s, people were pretty neutral about the military. They weren't mad at the military. You know, we were far enough past Vietnam, but they weren't really pro-military because we hadn't been anywhere for a while. So you fast forward to 1989-90 in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, it started to change slightly. And then you fast forward again to the tragic events of 9/11. And that changed the game for those of us in uniform. I mean, it changed the game for all of us, but for us in uniform, it was unreal. People started going way out of their way to tell us how much they appreciated our service. They were buying us coffee and buying us lunch and doing all these crazy, awesome things. It got so awkward. There was actually a commercial about showing appreciation, and we didn't know how to react. People would come up and say, hey, Mike, thanks for your service. I'd be like, thanks, you too. Well, that's not right. I mean, how do you respond to that? And there was a commercial, I think it was a beer company, and it was showing people how to show appreciation because this became such a big deal. Then these soldiers are walking through the airport, and this lady starts to get out of her chair like she's going to go thank him, and then she sits back down because it's too awkward. And big announcer guy voice comes on and says, if you want to thank a soldier for their service and you don't know how, just do this. They'll know what you mean. No, we won't. We'll think you're having a heart attack, and we'll probably start doing compressions. That's how awkward it was, but it's also how awesome it was. It got so crazy that if I was having a bad day, I would just put my uniform on and I would go to the mall and walk around and let people tell me how great I was. On one particular day, at this battalion headquarters that I got to be the commander of that was going to get deployed, we were in the community that unit is located. And we were going to go to lunch, and we were going to go to lunch on the economy because as an officer in the military, you don't get your meals paid for. So we go out on the town and see people and try to infuse some money into the economy and get to know the folks that support us. So it's myself and my teammates, there's 10 of us, we're going out to lunch, and where are we going? We're going to the Chinese buffet. And why are we going to the Chinese buffet? Because I don't have any willpower, and it's all you can eat. So we go to the Chinese buffet, and we're sitting there, and we're doing our thing, and we're eating, and it's time to go. And I'm the first person to get up from the table, and I get up from the table, and I walk over to the counter, because at the Chinese buffet, you eat your food, and then you go pay. And as I approach the counter, there's a tall, slender gentleman standing by the counter, and he looks at me and he says, "Soldier, don't worry about it. I got it." Now, two things immediately go through my mind. I get that lump in my throat because of the appreciation and the generosity and the willingness of people to thank the uniform. The second thing I think is, I'm the senior ranking guy here. If I get a free lunch and nobody else does, I will never hear the end of it. So I'm like, "No, sir, it's okay. You don't have to buy my lunch. I'm here with my team." And he said, "Son, I don't think you understand. I got them all." Now, I have a B school education from South Dakota, and I graduated in a half of the class that made the top half possible. You know what I'm saying? But even I can do that math. There's 10 of us. It's $10 to throw. This guy's going to throw down a $100 bill for some soldiers he's never seen before and likely will never see again, just to show appreciation. And that's pretty awesome. But it got better. My buddy and I are walking out of the restaurant, and we're side by side, and we're talking about the generosity of people and what a privilege it is to serve in uniform at this time. And as we come walking out of that restaurant, I look across the parking lot, and there's a young couple standing over there with a little boy between them, 4 or 5 years old, all holding hands. We come walking out, little boy looks up, sees 2 soldiers, breaks away from mom and dad, runs across the parking lot, jumps up, and hugs my buddy. I look down at him, I'm like, "Little dude, I am standing right here. Why did he get the hug?" Now, I look over at mom and dad thinking they're going to be freaking out, but they are all smiles because their little boy did exactly what they told him to do. When you see a soldier, you say thank you. It's unbelievable. And it occurred to me in that moment that, Oster, you have been getting all kinds of appreciation, but you haven't been giving any appreciation. So I'm at an organization doing presentations like this. It's a medical organization, so we had to do multiple presentations throughout the day. The first one's at dark 30 in the morning. I get done with that one, and I've got about a 2.5-hour break, so I'm going to breakfast. And where am I going? I'm going to Denny's. I already told you, I don't have any willpower. And you can get 4 eggs, 6 pounds of bacon, and 8 pounds of hash browns for $4.99. I call it the Taj Mahal of breakfast. So I go walking in, this young kid serves, the waiter takes me over to my booth. He sits me down, he tries to hand me a menu. I said, "That won't be necessary. I would like the Taj Mahal of breakfast." And he says, "Of course you would." And he disappears. And I do what we're supposed to do, right? I take my cell phone and I bury my face in it to avoid any outside interaction with the world. And while I'm doing that, minding my own business, I hear this commotion behind me, and I recognize this commotion. It's 2 old ladies. Now, these ladies were old. I don't know how old, 400 or 500 years. I'm not sure. But I recognize this commotion because my grandmother lived to be 109 years old. And she used to tell me about these granny dates that she would go on. And these 2 ladies are coming in on a granny date. And I'm thinking, this is amazing. My grandmother used to tell me about these. I'm going to actually get to witness this. And they sit right across from me. They have the same server. I'm sitting there in my booth, Granny 1 sitting here, Granny 2 sitting there, same server. He comes over, takes her order. Granny 1 orders the Taj Mahal of breakfast. There is no way she's eating all that bacon, so you know what I did? I slid closer, because she's also not going to let it go to waste, right? Granny 2 orders something, I don't know what it was. Waiter disappears, brings me my Taj Mahal of breakfast, comes back with their breakfast. Granny 1 gets Taj Mahal. Granny 2 gets a plate with a haystack of scrambled eggs. And he goes, "Here you are, ma'am. Here are your 6 scrambled eggs." Granny 2 panics, and she says, "I don't want 6 scrambled eggs." And he goes, "Well, ma'am, you ordered 6 scrambled eggs." And she says, "I don't want 6 scrambled eggs. I didn't order 6 scrambled eggs." And he starts to grab his pad because he's going to pull it out and prove to Granny 2 that you ordered 6 scrambled eggs. Now eat your damn eggs, right? But he gets it about halfway out, and he decides to push it back in. He pulls that plate back, and he says, "Ma'am, I am terribly sorry. This is my fault. What would you like?" And Granny 2 says, "I want what she's having, because don't we all just want the Taj Mahal of breakfast?" The kid disappears into the kitchen in some Superman-esque way, comes right back out with another Taj Mahal of breakfast, lays it down, crisis averted. This kid is doing a great job, and somebody should tell him that. Okay, Oster, why don't you? So they bring you the check in that little black folder, and it's always awkward for me. I never know how much to tip, 2%, 3%, I'm not sure. But you're supposed to tip in that little black folder and then just leave it there, right? And again, walk out without any interaction. Well, not today. Today I get the black folder and I do my thing and I'm all done with it, and I go walking right at this kid, and I'm carrying the black folder and I'm holding it out like I'm gonna let him grab it, and as he reaches for it, I pull it back and I grab his hand and I pull him and I said, hey man, I saw the way you treated those ladies. And if that had been my grandmother, I would want you taking care of her. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. And the kid just looked at me like I had lost my mind, right? I didn't know if he was going to throat punch me. I thought maybe we were going to hug. That can't be okay, right? Two guys hugging in Denny's? What's that about? And I walked out with a huge smile on my face with the awesome awkwardness that had just happened. Now, I really hope that that kid had a better day. I hope showing him appreciation made a difference in who he was so he could be better at how he was, but I don't know. But I know whose life it did make a difference in this guy's. The people that saw Mike Oster for the rest of that day got a better version of me than the people that saw me in the first presentation. Because I went out of my way to show somebody appreciation. And here's the thing about the power of appreciation. It's not that hard. It really is a two-step process. You only have to do two things to employ this journey, to start changing the attitude that you default to. The first thing is you just have to seek it out. You just have to look for people doing something awesome. It's happening all around us. But the world has us defaulting into seeing what's wrong with my day instead of what's right with my day, and then recognizing the people that are making it so. So step one is just seek it out. Look for an opportunity to show appreciation all day, every day. And step two, actually do it. When we look for the opportunity and then take that opportunity, it makes us better at who we are, which makes us better in all we do. Thank you again for being here. My best wishes for continued success for all of you. Thank you, and God bless you.